Welcome back to the CV Brothers podcast. In our last video, we started the rewrite we are calling My Star Wars. In part 1, we reviewed small changes to the history and rewrote episode 1. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin were trained together by Yoda. They were sent to help negotiations between the Galactic Republic and the Clone Society Initiative, or CIS, that was hosted by Duchess Satine of Naboo. The peace talks were sabotaged, but Satine, Obi-Wan, and Anakin escaped. Both Anakin and Obi-Wan fell for the Duchess and helped her save the planet of Naboo. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's apprentice, Endu, fought and defeated 2 Dark Jedi. Endu lost his left hand in the fight. Sheev Palpatine was elected the new Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Republic, and the Clone War officially began. Secretly, Satine began a relationship with both Anakin and Obi-Wan without the other knowing. I hope you enjoy these videos. If you do, leave a comment. If you don't, leave a comment. Now let's jump into part 2 of My Star Wars. Star Wars Episode 2, The Phantom Menace. The Clone Wars had raged for 7 years, and there seemed to be no end in sight. The clones/CIS controlled Outer Rim territories on both sides of the galaxy, a large portion of the expanded region and into the Mid-Rim. The Jedi got involved in the war as humanitarians, generals, protectors, and negotiators. At the start of the war, they tried to help both sides of the war, but over time they merged and joined the Republic Army and sided with the Galactic Republic. The CIS used this as propaganda to aid their cause, to allow more systems to join them and away from the Republic. The Jedi Order lost many Jedi during the war. Some were killed by attacks, others seemed to be killed by lightsabers. Others had gone missing. The Supreme Chancellor Palpatine commissioned battle droids to protect each planet while the conscripted soldiers of the Republic fought against the clone armies. Anakin and Obi-Wan both became generals in the Republic Army. Neither had chosen their roles, but they had been placed in situations where they needed to step in and lead the army to save lives of the people and the soldiers. Endu had achieved the rank of Jedi Knight and had upgraded the cybernetics in his left arm and had traveled around the galaxy helping different legions during the war. Obi-Wan and Anakin continued their secret relationships with Satine. They had kept it a secret from each other, but at times it seemed she had subtle mood changes and swings, but both brushed this off due to the fact that she had recently become pregnant. During what seemed to be the most crucial part of the war, the Jedi Council called Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker back to Coruscant. It seemed they were leaving the war and handing off something very important to someone else, but they followed their order and the mandate of the Jedi. Upon returning to Coruscant, the Council told them of their new assignment. The Jedi Council stressed to them the importance of their mission and the need for secrecy. The Council had felt a dark presence in the galaxy, not just from the war, but something else creeping in. They felt the Jedi were being attacked subtly by Dark Jedi or perhaps Sith. And they felt that they were behind this war, noticing that some things about the clone army and the Republic Army just didn't add up. They pulled Obi-Wan and Anakin from the front lines to investigate. The Jedi Council wanted to know who the Dark Jedi were, who had trained them, who had been killing the Jedi, and how they were all connected to the Clone War. They instructed Anakin and Obi-Wan not to trust or tell anyone about their investigation. Obi-Wan asked Endu to protect Satine while he and Anakin were on their mission. Endu had been a close friend to both Anakin and Obi-Wan since they had fought the Dark Jedi together on Naboo. He had given them advice about their secret relationships, but had kept the secret from each other for many years. He tried to be honest but discreet in his conversations with each of them. This could have been seen as manipulation by others, but Anakin and Obi-Wan did not take it as such. Their investigation took them across the galaxy. They found and fought Dark Jedi, the Grand Inquisitor, Dooku, the Inquisitors, and Force-sensitive agents who had been hunting Jedi. Though Anakin and Obi-Wan were highly trained, they were not fighting in sync as they had in the past due to their strong attachments and the secrets they were keeping from one another. Eventually, they uncovered a mysterious figure controlling the strings and a robotic Dark Jedi, Maul, being the head that was leading this charge. This dark figure was stealing Force-sensitive individuals to create Sith pawns. They were controlling elections of the Republic and seemed to be in control of the CIS. The figure seemed to be swaying Jedi away from the Order as well, converting them over to be Dark Jedi. Hence the drastic reduction in Jedi numbers that had not been seen in millennia. Anakin and Obi-Wan also uncovered a plot to eradicate the Jedi. They sent their findings back to Satine and Ndu. Ndu, in turn, relayed the information they had given him to the Jedi Council and pointed them to Sheev Palpatine, the obvious leader of this movement, pointing out how he had obtained large amounts of power since the start of the war, more than had been held by any politician or supreme chancellor in the past. Ndu also uncovered the secret Satine had been keeping from everyone, that she was not one, but two different people, and about how they were both pregnant. He noticed this when one Satine gave birth, and then a few days later, Satine gave birth again. Ndu that Satine was actually two identical twins posing as the same person for protection. Anakin and Obi-Wan had each fallen for a different one of the twins. Star Wars Episode 3: The Last Jedi. Anakin and Obi-Wan regrouped and tried to understand what to do next. Before they could follow all the clues and piece everything back together to Palpatine, Anakin got a message from the Chancellor to head to Mustafar, where Satine had been sent to negotiate peace talks between the Republic and the CIS leaders. Obi-Wan was sent back to Coruscant to give his findings to the Jedi Order in person, but also he felt he should check up to see if the baby had come from Satine. While Anakin was en route to Mustafar and Obi-Wan was en route to Coruscant, Ndu and the whole Jedi Council moved to stop and arrest Chancellor Palpatine, based on the findings of Obi-Wan and Anakin. Upon their arrival in the Chancellor's office, Ndu betrayed the Jedi Council, along with a handful of fallen Jedi. Palpatine unleashed his dark Sith powers and skills, surprising the Jedi Council. Together, they killed the Jedi Council, except for Master Yoda, who barely managed to survive. Palpatine framed this to the Senate as the corrupt Jedi trying to take over the Senate and oust him from office, a coup d'etat. With that message, Palpatine turned the Senate against the Jedi and assaulted the temple. He rechristened the Galactic Republic as the First Galactic Empire. Ndu was then sent to take care of the clone leaders on Mustafar and remove Anakin from the board. When Obi-Wan arrived on Coruscant, he found the whole planet had turned against the Jedi. Many residents of the planet tried to hide or save as many of the Jedi as they could, but the propaganda took the trust of most of the people. Obi-Wan managed to get back to Satine's residence to find her and the baby. He was surprised, though, because she was supposed to have been on Mustafar with Anakin. She told him what Palpatine had done and how he had reshaped the Republic and attacked the Jedi. Obi-Wan became worried about Anakin, so he loaded up Satine's ship and the three of them left for Mustafar. Anakin and the other Satine met up in the space above Mustafar and headed down to the surface to meet with the clone leaders. The leaders had been told by their mysterious leader to negotiate with Anakin, and that this would ensure their positions and reward within the new empire. The negotiations were in full swing when Endu arrived and told them the Republic had attacked the Jedi. Anakin and Satine tried to understand what was happening, and this is when Obi-Wan and the other Satine arrived to save Anakin. Anakin and Satine went out to meet Obi-Wan and the other Satine as more confusion spread. While the four of them began arguing, Endu gave the clone leaders their reward by slaughtering all of them. The tensions between Obi-Wan, Anakin, and the two Satines rose and rose. Endu came out into the conversation and began stroking the fires of conflict. He pushed and pushed until Anakin and Obi-Wan lashed out at each other and began to fight. Both Satines tried to get them to stop, calling for their love, for their friendship, for the families that they were a part of. The fight continued until one of the Satines stepped too close and was sliced through with a lightsaber blade. This led Anakin to catch her in his arms while she died and pulling her last breaths. He was finally brought back to the light and realized what they were doing. This snapped Obi-Wan out of his rage against Anakin, but also allowed him to realize that Endu had been the one pushing them, and that he must be the dark side user or Sith that had been manipulating the whole war. Obi-Wan calmly, but with passion and pain, confronted Endu about his connections to the Sith and the influences in the war. This was someone he had trusted. This was someone he had grown up with. He had shared secrets with, and who had betrayed him apparently again and again. Endu tried to twist Obi-Wan's words back at him toward Anakin, but Obi-Wan knew what was happening and began to duel with his former apprentice. Anakin joined in, trying to stop both of them and to bring Endu to justice. In the fierce battle between the three of them, Anakin was killed. In response, Obi-Wan dismembered Endu, removing both of his arms, his legs, slashing him across the chest and then through his face. Obi-Wan returned to the living Satine and the two babies. Depressed, broken, betrayed, ashamed, and fatigued, he told Satine he would take the baby boy. He then asked Satine to leave and keep the baby girl, safe. Obi-Wan believed his Satine was the one who had died, and that both babies were truly Anakin's twins, so to speak. With the leadership of the clones removed and the entire Senate following behind Palpatine, the Empire gained more and more power with every minute and every hour. Obi-Wan took the baby boy to Tatooine to hide from the Empire. Yoda sent out the few Jedi younglings that he had saved across the galaxy to give them a chance to live and to be safe. He then went into exile, feeling he had failed his order and all of the people of the galaxy. The Empire unified the galaxy and brought peace. Endu was found by Palpatine and his private guards, barely alive, and was grafted with cybernetics from head to toe. He began plotting for his next move in a way to gain more power and to eventually rule. Obi-Wan Kenobi sat there alone on the planet of Tatooine, believing he was truly the last Jedi, and that this boy was their last.